house, and we are delighted to be joined today by Bill Gallo, who is Director of Racing for the National Steeplechase Association. So it's Tom Amello, Nick Kling, and Bill Gallo. Bill, welcome to the program.
Oh, thanks, Tom. It's a pleasure to be here.
Ladies and gentlemen, you know that Nick Kling and I have been strong supporters and proponents of steeplechase racing. The meet kicks off the Wednesday card. The first race is a steeplechase. We think they're great races to watch, tremendous fun to handicap. And Bill, we're going to give you an opportunity to just talk about the evolution of the game here at Saratoga, your spring season, and what we can look forward to here at Saratoga from the steeplechasers.
Great, Tom. The evolution of the game in Saratoga, 137 years ago, there was a jump race at Saratoga. We've been a part of it forever, and we're proud of that. It's an honor to be here. It's a privilege for our owners and our trainers and our riders to participate. We hope we add something, a spectacle if nothing else. There are some drawbacks, obviously. The handle does go down slightly in a jump race, and that's an obstacle that we're trying to overcome. And one of the ways we try and overcome that is to put on the very best racing possible. There's a very strict eligibility rule here in Saratoga that applies only to the jumpers. The horses must have finished first, second, or third in a steeplechase race just to be eligible. That in itself produces some pretty quality racing, and I think certainly in the last 4 or 5 years, the quality of our racing has been outstanding. We've averaged about 10 horses per race. The jumpers are very formful, and we're pretty proud of our product.
Bill, let's just talk briefly about the whole handicapping problem with steeplechase races. You talked about handle. Well, handle is a function of people's comfort. Putting money into the pools, we maintain that it's almost easier, in our opinion, to handicap jump races. They're formful. The race conditions, we think, are extremely important. So would you just talk about how you would attack a jump race as a handicapper?
The best advice, I'm asked this question often, and quite frankly, if you don't try and attack it any differently. Look at it like a flat race. Look at your breeding. Look at your flat form. It's not magical. And the advantage you have is looking at a horse's steeplechase form. As I said earlier, having the qualifying rule means they have established form over jumps. You've got to pay attention to the connections. There's no question about it. When you see Tom Voss, when you see Jonathan Shepard, when you see Santa Hendricks, those are familiar names, and you can't overlook that. Patterns, I think, is very important. Now, Tom Voss, he structures his entire steeplechase season around this very meet. We just had a race at Philadelphia Park yesterday, a $50,000 Pennsylvania-bred steeplechase race. Tom Voss won the race. The horse won by 30 lengths. And it was just a light bulb went off in my head. I said, we're getting close to Saratoga. Voss's horses are pretty live right now. So I don't think there's any. I can understand why some people shy away from the jump race. I mean, there are several decisions to make. Some people have an aversion to the possibility of a fall. I will tell you that the falls and pull-ups have been minimal at Saratoga in the last 5 or 6 years. And that, once again, that goes back to the qualifying rule. Plus, the level of competition up here is so strong, you really don't get the bottom part of the horse inventory. You're really getting the cream of the crop. So the better jumpers fall less, pull up less. They're better jumpers, period. And
Bill, I've got a question, and that is, I'm a trip handicapper in the regular flat races, and I've discovered from watching the steeplechase events that they're really fascinating to watch because you can identify differences in the horses. Some of them are better on the flat portion. They'll pick up a length or two, and then they'll take the jump and have a little trouble, smoothing out as quickly after a jump as other horses. And that's one of the things that I find fascinating about steeplechase racing is if you get to see the horses, you can learn a little bit about those things.
It's a terrific point, Nick. One of the things when you're watching a steeplechase race, ideally you want a very efficient jumper. This is not about going down to a fence and stopping, jumping up in the air and getting over. The object of this game, it's hurdle racing, first of all. It's a smaller fence than they have in England. And the object is to get over it as quickly and as efficiently as possible without any interruption. There are cases, the horse I just mentioned, Party Air, is the horse that won yesterday at Philadelphia Park. He's fresh in my mind. He's kind of a quirky jumper. He gets to his jumps and he actually jumps a little bit to the right and he kind of loses ground at fences. But he's so fast in between the fences, he makes up for any shortcoming he might have. But the advice I would give your viewers would be, look at, you know, trip handicapping is a good thing in steeplechasing. Watch your race. Go to the replay center and look at a prior steeplechase race and see how efficient they are over fences. Efficiency over fences is really going to help you in the long run.
Let me ask you another question, Bill. It seems to me, and I could be wrong, but I think it was Sean Clancy who wrote something last year, a couple of years ago. Sean took a trip to Great Britain, I believe, and spent some time over there watching the steeplechase racing in Great Britain. And when he came back, one of the things that he wrote was that they kind of play the game a little differently in Europe. It's more business, you know, like serious business, like the everyday flat racing is in this country, versus, you know, a more, I don't know the words that he used, but like a more gentlemanly or a relaxed sport in America. You know, and again, if it wasn't Sean that wrote that, I apologize. But A, is that a correct perception, and B, is it a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a true thing. In England and Ireland and France, steeplechasing is a part of the racing scene on a national level. There's no aversion to betting steeplechase racing in Europe, not the way we have it here. You know, I guess it's a bad thing for us, it's a good thing for them. I don't know if we could ever convert the American public the same way. Probably not. They're not born to the game like they are over there. But, and you know, one of the other problems we have here, and it's a national organization, a national sport. In reality, it's more of an East Coast, up and down the East Coast type of sport, so it's not truly national. But the game is thriving here right now. We're doing very well, and we're pretty happy with our product.
Bill, one of the things you and I talked about earlier in the week, you know, you talk about class quality qualifying. I asked you if you could name just a couple of your premier meets where jumpers are prepped or might be coming or shipping here to Saratoga. So if you're looking at a past performance line and you see a horse broke its maiden at a certain place or worked in an allowance company, are there any areas that you would you did mention a couple that you think are kind of clues to handicap?
Sure, there are 3 or 4 in the spring. I mean, like anything else in our schedule, with 15 or 16 race meets during our spring season, there are 3 or 4 that stand out. They're kind of the A meets, and horses that are participating at those A meets are participating for high-level purses. Even the maiden races, I think I told you the other day, we have $25,000 maiden special races at the race meets. That's a significant number. The horse that wins a $25,000 maiden race is a horse that's coming to Saratoga. I can almost assure you of that. The Carolina Cup is early in our spring meet. It's one of our premier meets. Atlanta is another one to look for in those PPs. There's a terrific meet we have out in Iroquois called the Iroquois. It's Nashville, Tennessee. Big purses, top quality horses. Eventually they're going to come here.
Let's talk a little bit about today's program. We've got several training flat races today. We want to point out that our good friend Dick Hamilton is one of your stewards, and the races today are going to be called by Marshall Cassidy, a voice that I'll be anxious to hear again. I've always appreciated Marshall's call, and it's good to have him back in the booth. But let's talk a little bit about today's flat preps.
We have 2 races. They're both 1.5 miles on the turf. Once again, you know, if I was a handicapper or if I was a bettor and I was thinking about the upcoming Saratoga steeplechase events, I'd pay attention to these 2 races today. These 2 races, 1.5 miles on the turf, for horses that are eligible for the meet only. So we have 18 horses running. There's 1 scratching in one side, so there's 10 in one, 8 in the other, and eventually every one of these horses will, barring injury, will participate at the meet. A training flat race is something unique to steeplechasing. We call it training flat. There is no purse. It does not count towards a horse's record. These races will be listed in the form or equibase as a workout. So it's watching the races today. I'm going to watch them with great interest. It'll tell me a little bit. It'll give me a line on some important horses. We have the best horse in the country running in the first race today. Horse named Hirapur. He's the Eclipse champion. He's running here in preparation for August 8th at the AP Smithwick. It's one of our two big races up here. We race on August 8th and August 31st, our two major stakes, and this horse is going to get a little spin going a mile and a half today.
Bill, one question as we wind you down here. You race every Wednesday except one Monday,
Right.
right? And we'd like to have you back before your big race.
And Tuesday and Thursdays as well.
No, just Wednesday.
Just Wednesday.
We did adjust the program. We have 9 races.
Oh.
And we only race on Wednesdays with the exception of Hall of Fame week. The Smithwick has been moved to that Monday, August 8th.
All right, and as I said, I'd like to invite you back before your big race at the end of the year, the Turf Fridays, I do believe.
Yes.
And maybe that Sunday you come in for a few minutes and just talk about that race.
I'd love to do that.
Maybe we should also mention, Bill, before you go, on August 8th, there will be 3 representatives from your sport going into the Hall of Fame. Tom Walsh as a jockey, Sidney Waters is a trainer who us flat guys know as the trainer of Quick Call, a former Saratoga legend, and also Lonesome Glory, who I'm not sure it's fair to call him the secretariat of the steeplechase game or to call secretariat the Lonesome Glory of the flat game, but Lonesome Glory was a tremendous racehorse.
Terrific. 3 great inductees. I wanted to mention Nick Zito, too. Obviously, he's the main inductee that day. And just as an interesting aside, Nick Zito actually has a steeplechase horse in training now. He's running in his wife's name. And will be running, I think, August 31st at Colonial, trying to break his maiden. I'd love to see that horse come up here.
Wow. Tremendous, tremendous. Well, Bill Gallo, National Steeplechase Association, we wish you the best. We're looking forward to the opening day of the meet and the first steeplechase race. And if folks have any questions, they could swing by the office, yes?
Yes, I'm right in the racing secretary's office.